Hey Bead Geeks! This week we're going to start out our basic stitch series, and I'm going to teach you how to do basic peyote stitch. Now, not only am I going to teach you how to do basic peyote stitch, but I'm going to teach you how to do a diagonal pattern with your peyote stitch. Now, the hardest part about peyote stitch is getting started. Once you get started, it's just a repetitive pattern over and over and over again. You can use pretty much any kind of bead for a peyote stitch. I like the uniform look of using Delicas, so for today's project I'm going to use a size 11 Delica, and you're going to want two colors. You're going to want a background color, which I'm going to use for my gray, and then you're going to want a diagonal stripe color, which I'm going to use is my light opaque turquoise. Now I'm using two opaque beads to give it kind of the same uniform look. If you want to use a shiny and a matte, you can use size 8 Delicas, you can use regular seed beads, you can even use cubes to triangles. It just gives you a completely different look. So like I said, you're going to need two colors of a size 11 to do the project today. And I'm using a little bit stiffer of a needle, not a big eye, but you can use a big eye needle. And I'm working with as much thread as I can work with. Now I'm comfortable with working with 3 to 4 yards of thread. If you're not comfortable with working that, only work with about 2 yards. Completely up to you. Now the first thing that we're going to do, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so I can get you a closer look at what we're doing. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be using my background color here, and I want it to be not real wide, but I do want to have 12 beads onto my base. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up one bead and I'm going to pull it down, and I want to leave myself about a 12 to 14 inch tail. Now I like to leave that long of a tail because that way it's much easier for me to add my closure when I get to the end. So this is my tail end here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come right back through that one seed bead coming towards, the needle wood side. And when I pull it, that is going to make a loop of thread around that one bead. That is called my stop bead. Now I'm also going to consider that my very first bead, because when I get done or I get to the end, I can pull that thread out and have what I need. So I'm going to add 11 more beads to have a total of 12. So that when I drop them all down, I have a total of 12 beads here on my mat. Now, once I have my 12, I'm going to pick up one bead. Okay, this would be considered my bead 13. I'm going to skip bead number 12 right here. And I'm going to come back through bead number 11, coming back towards my tail. And when I come through it, I'm going to hold that bead in place so that way I don't get anything messed up. Now, once you pull that through, and you pull it good and tight, you will have bead 12 and bead 13. I'm trying to get my tail untwisted here. You will have bead 12 and bead 13 sitting on top of each other like this. I'm going to pick up one bead. I'm coming out of bead 11. I'm going to skip bead 10. And I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come back through bead 9, coming back towards the tail. So basically what I'm doing is I'm picking up a bead, I'm skipping one on the base, and going through the next one. Look at it, a way to think about it is that you're building a house and you're putting building blocks in your house. Okay, again, I'm going to pick up one. My thread is coming out of bead number 9. I'm going to skip bead number 8 and come back through bead number 7, coming towards my tail. And I like to kind of hold it in place so that way I'm not messing anything up here. Pick up a bead. I'm coming out of bead 7. I'm going to skip bead 6 and come back through bead number 5, coming towards my tail. And sometimes your beads don't want to pop into place. They don't want to lay like they should. If that's the case, make them lay like you see them lay here. Pick up 1, coming out of bead number 5. I'm going to skip bead number 4 and come back through bead number 3. Now I will tell you, when you first learn how to do peyote stitch, it is much easier to learn using size 8 delicas. So I'm coming out of bead number 3, I'm going to skip bead number 2, and I'm going to come through bead number 1, which is the bead that I have the little thread wrapped around, my stop bead, I would say. So now I have added this row of beads here. Now the way that you count peyote stitch is you start in the corner. So I have 1 bead here, that's row 1, and I'm going to count into a diagonal. So that's 1, that's 2 beads, so that's 2 rows, and here's 3, so I have 3 rows of peyote stitch. Now from this point on, all we're going to be doing is filling in spaces, and you'll see what I mean. So I'm going to pick up a bead, I'm exiting here, so I'm just going to take my needle and I'm going to come back through my first bead sticking up on the row that I just finished. Pick up a bead, come through the next bead sticking up on the row. You're constantly working from side to side is all you're doing in basic, flat, even count peyote stitch. Pick up a bead, go through the next one sticking up on the row. Pick up 1, go through the next bead sticking up. And I got 2 more beads I have to add here. So pick up 1, go through 1, pick up 1, and go through the last one sticking up here on the end. Okay, so now if we're going to count them, I have 1 row, 2 row, 3 rows, 4 rows. Now for the diagonal pattern that I want to do, I have to have 5 rows of peyote stitch. So I got to add my 5th row. So I'm going to pick up 1. I'm going to go through the first bead sticking up here on the row I just finished. And I like to kind of hold it where I'm working down towards myself. You know, you can flip it. You can pretty much do whatever you want to with the peyote stitch. That's what's so nice about it. But each time, you know, from this point on, if you're just doing one color, basic peyote stitch, all I'm doing is I'm picking up 1, coming through the next bead sticking up on the row. Picking up 1, coming through the next bead on the row. And you would do this just over and over and over until you got to the length that you needed. Then you'll want to be sure and